Hello, everyone. If you could take your seats. Good evening, and welcome to the Lowell Votes 16th Middlesex District State Representative Candidate Forum. My name is Yasmin Weil-Profard. I am the Lowell Votes Coalition Coordinator, and I am also your moderator for this evening. We have a packed schedule for you tonight, but before we begin, I wanted to talk a little bit about Lowell Votes and some of the work our partners are doing in the community. Lowell Votes is a nonpartisan grassroots coalition working to increase civic education, participation, and government accountability in the city of Lowell. Our partners are a Coalition for a Better Acre, Lowell Alliance, the Cambodian Mutual Assistance Association, the Latinx Community Center for Empowerment, and the Merrimack Valley Project. This year, our partners have been hard at work, door knocking and making calls to voters across the greater Lowell region, collectively knocking on over 5,000 doors and making over 8,400 calls to underrepresented voters. Some of our other programs include providing free candidate readiness trainings for those looking to run for office, creating and distributing voter education materials, and advocating for equitable and accountable governance in our city. You can learn more about Lowell Votes' work at lowellvotes.org, or you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lowell Votes. Now let's get on to our forum tonight. All questions asked in this forum were generated with resident input and part of an extensive effort to make voting easy, interactive, and fun. A note that the purpose of this forum is to provide a platform for residents to engage with their candidates on issues that are important to them in order to make an informed decision at the polls. This is not a debate. We ask the audience members be respectful, clapping is welcomed, but heckling will not be tolerated. With that, I'll pass it over to our candidates over here and open up the floor for candidate introductions and opening statements. Candidates will get 1 minute each, and we'll start in alphabetical order. So do you want to come up?
Can everybody hear me okay? Great. Hello, everybody. My name is Zoe Zaniku. This community welcomed my family with open arms when I immigrated from Liberia at 4 years old. When I took the job at Senator Kennedy's office as the Constituent Services Director, I fell in love with helping people in my community. I decided, to now run for state representative to fight for the people of the 16th Middlesex District. I've worked in the State House. I've already been there. I'm a consensus builder, and I'm ready to fight for you. Please welcome me as your next state representative. Oh, I have 15 seconds left? Oh, I'll talk a little bit more. As an immigrant, a mom, and a consensus builder. Oh my God. Can I do a do-over? Okay.
Thank you, candidate.
Yeah. They need to get it together, figure it out. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Candidate Rodney, you're up.
Hi, good evening, everyone. First, let me thank Lowell Votes and the Coalition for a Better Acre for sponsoring this event tonight. It's wonderful to be here at St. Michael's. Kind of reminds me of my memories, my days back at St. Senduk School in Pawtucketville. But I'm Rodney Elliott. I'm a candidate for state representative. I'm here to earn your vote. I've been married for 28 years to my wife, Laurie. We have 2 daughters, both of whom are registered nurses. When I look at them, I think of their future. What do we need to do to make sure theirs and every other child's is equally secure and bright? My career spans over 42 years, beginning as an aide in the Massachusetts State Senate, city planner, administrator in Groton. I spent 25 years at the United States Environmental Protection Agency and 7 years where I currently working for the state and environmental agencies. For 24 years, I was honored to serve as a city council and a term as mayor. I feel that experience providing constituent services to residents will be invaluable if elected. As your state representative, I'm going to take that knowledge and that experience. I'm going to use it to fight for the people of the 16th District. I love this community, and I feel I have more left to give to its residents, the people of Lowell and Chelmsford. Thank you.
Thank you, Cabinet.
You may not recognize my name. I am not a career politician. In fact, this is the first time I've ever run for public office. As a taxpayer like you, I am fed up with the status quo. So I decided to be proactive and part of the solution. My mission is to be an advocate for my constituents, especially in being relentless to ensure my district receives funding for needed infrastructure and community projects. I appreciate the hardworking people of the state and identify with those suffering from high taxes and inflation. The cost of living is through the roof in this state. I will fight for common sense policies, bringing back traditional values to the Commonwealth, and work diligently to secure a brighter future by preserving our freedom. A native of Chelmsford, I have resided in Lowell for over 20 years. I am married with a daughter and a granddaughter. As a businesswoman, I am fiscally responsible,
Thank you, candidate.
a conservative, and a problem solver. Thank you for letting me speak today.
Let's give all the candidates another round of applause. It's hard being up here. We're going to now move on to round one of our candidate question and answer. The rules for this forum are, starting in alphabetical order, candidates will come up one by one and spin the question wheel over here. Once the wheel has stopped at a category, the candidate will blindly select a question from one of the bowls marked by the corresponding category. The candidate who spun the wheel will get 1 minute to answer the question before it's the next candidate's turn to spin the question wheel and answer a question. Candidates will rotate like this until each candidate answers 4 questions. A couple of notes. If the wheel lands on wild, all candidates will answer the question chosen from the bowl, not just the candidate whose turn it is. If at any time we run out of questions from a specific category, the candidate whose turn again can spin the wheel again. Let's welcome up candidate Zoe. What do we have? Elections. Okay. Choose one and then hand it to me. Thank you. I know it's a little hard to type. I'm going to read this twice because we do have a live interpreter here. How can we increase voter turnout in Lowell, and why do you think people don't vote? Question is again, how can we increase voter turnout in Lowell, and why do you think people don't vote?
So I definitely think that we can always increase voter turnout. As a former elections commission, that was one of the most important things that our commission did, which was increase polling locations to ensure that folks are able to vote when they want to and near their homes to make it easier. We also expanded, along with expanding polling locations, we also went ahead and talked about and rolled out mail-in ballots, as well as other proposals. I am for same-day registration voting. I think that it increases turnout. Also, with communities such as ourselves, there's not enough engagement, and all we need to do is actually engage people by actually speaking with them. When I was knocking over 2,500 doors, people were amazed that I was actually speaking to them, and they encouraging them to come out to vote, and they actually did. I think right now, I think from the elections office, we had about 5,000 people that have already voted. That's amazing.
Thank you, candidate. Public safety. How can we improve upon the relationship between Lowell's police and residents? Again, how can we improve upon the relationship between Lowell's police and residents?
Sure. In 1993, Lowell was recognized. We introduced a community policing program, and we were nationally recognized for the model that was put in place. And so to continue that effort, It was about 10 years ago I actually filed the motion, let's reinvigorate the community police station. And there's one right here in Pawtuckaville and many of the neighborhoods. We did see a decrease in crime. That created the ability to have relationships, to put police officers in the neighborhood so they would get to know the residents and establish dialogues, understand the concerns and the issues. Just recently, I believe it was last year, the city created a Citizens Advisory Committee specifically to put stakeholders, community members on a board, on the committee, to engage with the community and sort of take the next step of community policing. They meet monthly, and there's numerous initiatives that committee addresses, and everything from bringing concerns from the community to that.
Thank you, candidate.
Thank you.
Try to give it a hard spin all around. Public safety again. Want to pick one out?
Oh, sure.
Thank you. How can we make our public schools safer? Again, how can we make our public schools safer?
I think that the public schools should have been made safe a long time ago. The first school shooting, I think people should have taken action immediately after that happened. A lot of the time, the school shooter is mentally ill. So that's one of the things that we need to address is what do we do with the people that are mentally ill? We need to solve that problem. The other thing that we can do is we can put retired policemen, maybe retired veterans, at the schools, at the doors of the schools. I don't know if anyone's tried it yet, but I certainly think that that could be one of the solutions for it. It's the most important thing. The most important thing are the children, and this needed to be addressed and should be addressed.
Thank you,
immediately.
candidate. So it is your turn again.
You should have music up here, man.
What do we have?
Education.
Education. Thank you. Thank you. How can we improve upon the diversity of staff in our public schools? How can we improve upon the diversity of staff in our public schools?
Well, growing up in Lowell and going through the schools in Lowell, I know I didn't see a lot of teachers or staff that looked like me. Not that there aren't any, but I'm not sure if we're looking in the right places. Education is extremely important, and folks that are, especially the students that are there, should feel comfortable. I had some of the most wonderful teachers, though, that actually always, propelled me and got me just ready for success in the next world. For diversity, we need to ensure that our staff or the teachers are multilingual, first of all, so that they can speak with the parents as well as the students. Another thing that I would suggest is going outside the pool that we currently I guess take from, and maybe extending searches nationwide. That will increase, a more pool of
Thank you,
teachers.
candidate. Economy. What is the difference between minimum wage and livable wage? What should be the livable wage in Lowell? Again, what is the difference between minimum wage and livable wage?
I
What
think
should be the livable wage in Lowell?
What should be the livable wage in Lowell? That's a good question because, you know, families, working families, middle-income families, all families are hurting as a result of a number of factors, and particularly inflation. So minimum wage is what is required. That's the basic regulatory requirement. Livable wage takes into consideration inflation and the cost of living that people really do need support from. So that is the difference. What should it be in Lowell? It certainly should be more than it is now, and that's why there's an economic development bond bill, economic development bill that's in the legislature that addresses and increases rental deduction for people that rent, increases the circuit breaker for senior citizens. Also, there's a $250 rebate that should go back to the taxpayers as well as a surplus. So these are the things that you know, financially, people need it now. We're going into the winter. People are concerned about the cost of heating. Thank you.
Government. Really folded these up good. How do you plan to stay connected to different populations in our diverse community, including residents who are not English speakers? Again, how do you plan to stay connected to different populations in our diverse community, including residents who are not English speakers?
I think how we stay connected in this state and in this country is the way people have always stayed connected. And I think if you go to any country in the world, the best thing for you is to try to learn the language of that country, because that gives you independence. It gives you power, and it allows you a lot more benefits and a lot more knowledge if you do learn the language. We have interpreters, but I would really encourage people when they go to any country to learn the language. And I know that we have classes. I actually have a friend that teaches classes on how to speak English. So I think the best way to do it is just encourage people to learn how to speak English. Did I answer that whole?
Thank you, candidate. So it is your turn again.
Government or? Yeah, government.
Government again.
You keep looking at your nails, that's fine.
Currently, Massachusetts does not have term limits for governor or speaker of the House. If elected, would you support term limits for political offices? Why or why not? Again, currently, Massachusetts does not have term limits for governor or speaker of the House. If elected, would you support term limits for political offices? Why or why not?
Yes, I would support term limits. I think there's a certain amount of time that someone could actually, lead and govern and, have fresh new ideas. If you're there for, 10, 20, 30 years, it's a sign of the time. Sometimes we do need a fresh voice. Sometimes we need a fresh face. Sometimes we need new ideas. And sometimes we just need different perspectives. And so having term limits will allow for a better governing process, because more people would be engaged in order to actually run and feel comfortable enough to run, to know that they can actually, make it to office.
Thank you. Wild.
Wild.
So if we recall, all candidates will answer this question. So candidate Rodney will go first, and then we'll go down the line, and then we'll pick back up again with candidate Carla. What qualifies you to be a Massachusetts state rep? Again, what qualifies you to be a Massachusetts state rep?
As I mentioned in my opening statement, I've spent not only my professional career, but also 24 years in the Lowell City Council. And I think the importance of understanding, being engaged, sitting on almost every subcommittee, learning the issues, understanding what communities need. I tell you, on the local level, we know it best because every issue comes across the plate of Lowell city councilors. So I feel this experience, understanding neighborhood by neighborhood, issue by issue, all of the important ordinances and laws that we have adopted in response to constituents and hearing their concerns and being able to act on them. And we act, nobody knows better on the local level the issues. And I think I'm going to take that experience, I'm going to bring it as your state representative, I'm going to have that on the ground, day one experience to start working on your behalf.
Thank you, candidate. Yes, yes. Same question. What qualifies you to be a Massachusetts state rep?
What qualifies me to being a Massachusetts state rep is simply this. I am a compassionate and passionate person. I am a mother. I am a business entrepreneur. I am a community leader. I build consensus. I listen to folks. I listen to people. And the most important thing that you can do in anything that you do is listen first. And once you listen, you're able to adequately formulate great plans in order to ensure that you get things solved. As hopefully your next state representative, I will be that person to listen to and to bring resources back to our district, because for a long time, I think we've been overlooked. And I am that person to fight for you. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate.
I think what qualifies me to be your state representative is my qualities of hard work ethics, passionate dedication, and integrity. And that will allow me to tackle the tough issues we are facing today head on. And we do have a lot of tough issues today. I would also say life experience and keeping up also with all the issues in this country, and always knowing every day what's happening is what is allowed me, it would allow me to be a good state representative. And that's why I'm here, because I pay attention every day. And to me, it's very stressful to hear bad news every day that's coming out of this country. And so this is why I chose this time to step up and try to do something about it.
Thank you, candidate.
Thank you.
If you actually just want to stay up here, it's your turn to spin the wheel. Is that audience question? So these questions were submitted by our in-person audience. Select one. Thank you. Would you support the diaper bank bill if it was brought back? The diaper bank bill is to fund diaper banks throughout Massachusetts. That was submitted by audience member Pam.
So diapers as in baby diapers?
Yes.
Okay.
For children.
Okay, I have a whole book here full of issues and questions, but I am not really that familiar with this bill, so I'm assuming that you were able to get free diapers. Is that how it works?
Specifically for diaper banks in Massachusetts.
So a diaper bank is we give free diapers to low-income families that are working with agencies that can't afford families. So like immigrants that have come in or
Yeah.
families who just, they're not making ends meet. They're both working parents can't pay the $60 it is for 40 diapers.
Okay.
So things like low-income families.
Okay, I get
there's
it, yeah.
Nothing to fund us.
I believe I would support that because obviously babies have to have diapers. And I realize that the cost of diapers these days must be astronomical. So I would support that bill.
Okay, thank you. We have one more round, so Zoe, it's up. You're up. Go, make sure to go around all the way. Immigration. Want to pick one?
My Georgia just came.
Folded these up too good. As of December 2021, 14 local jurisdictions allow non-citizen voting. If elected, would you support non-citizen voting for municipal elections? Why or why not? Let me read it again. As of December 2021, 14 local jurisdictions allow non-citizen voting. If elected, would you support non-citizen voting for municipal elections? Why or why not?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to let everybody know that I am an immigrant. I was born in Liberia. I grew up here. And I was raised by a single mom who was in status for a while and then was out of status. And what that means is that she was an immigrant that did not have the correct immigration status for a while. However, she continued to work and take care of us. And she worked very hard, 2 to 3 jobs as a CNA. I empathize with immigrants because for every bad issue or anything that you hear about someone that is not currently from this country, there's thousands of hardworking immigrants that are currently in this country. So if we are thinking about upward mobility and being an inclusive, diverse nation, we currently already have folks in this place.
Thank you, candidate. Elections. What policies would you support to improve our election system? What policies would you support to improve our election system?
Well, at the very least, we do know at the city level that we need additional staff in the office. They work awfully hard, but policies, I believe the mail-in voting has been successful. We also have the option of early voting, absentee voting. There's plenty of options available. I know there's been an issue discussed about same-day voter registration. I would consider a pilot program to see how and if that is successful. However, I do think the structure that is in place, we've done a number of things. We'd have to increase the salary. We need poll workers. We need workers in general. So I think that's it's an operational issue, but it also lends to the fact that the election system is doing well. And yeah, so.
Thank you.
Those are my answers. Thank you.
Economy. Oh, they're stuck together? Oh, maybe it's just one, yeah. With inflation on the rise, what policies would you support to lower the cost of living for residents? Again, with inflation on the rise, what policies would you support to lower the cost of living for residents?
The policies that I would support would be
Could you just
to-
speak into the mic? I'm sorry.
Sorry. The policies that I would support would be to go back to using fossil fuels, to open the pipelines, and to go back to using gas. I don't believe that this state, this country, is ready for this aggressive plan that they have, or not a plan really, to convert us to electric cars and such. And I believe that the economy had turned as soon as they stopped, the production of fossil fuels. I also think that the other reason for the economy and inflation is all these bills, these trillion-dollar bills that were passed. A lot of these bills that were passed were given names that had nothing to do with the actual bill.
Thank you, candidate. That concludes round one of our question and answer. Let's give all the candidates a round of applause. We're going to move on to our speed round. So for the first section of our speed round, I'm going to ask a series of yes or no questions, which all of the candidates will answer using our yes or no signs. Candidates are not allowed to elaborate further. They can only respond using the yes or no signs. Okay, we ready for the first one? Okay. Well, I'm going to start anyway. First question. Do you support the Fair Share Amendment, a referendum on the statewide ballot in November which seeks a 4% increase in taxes for residents making over $1 million? The additional tax revenue will be used to improve public education and transportation in communities like Lowell. Yes or no?
I will. As soon as I decide, it's hard to answer these questions with yes or no.
Do you need, should I repeat it again?
Pass on that one.
Okay. Next question.
Oh, can we pass?
Well,
No, we prefer no.
but you're adults, so you have free will. Second question. Earlier this year, Massachusetts passed a new law called the Work and Family Mobility Act, which allows immigrants without legal status to apply for a standard state driver's license beginning on July 1st, 2023. There is currently a group trying to get this law repealed. If elected, would you support driver's licenses for undocumented residents? Okay. Next question. Rent control, which is defined by a government control and regulation of the amounts charged for rented housing, was outlawed in Massachusetts in a 1994 referendum. If elected, would you support rent control regulations such as limiting the amount of rent that can be raised annually? Last yes or no question. In 2020, Massachusetts Representative Ayanna Pressley, among others, introduced the Counseling Not Criminalization in Schools Act, which shifts federal resources away from school police and instead invests in culturally responsive nurses, mental health professionals, and other trauma-informed staff. If elected, would you support similar efforts taking place in Massachusetts to reallocate funds from police and schools to hire more counselors? So the question is, if elected, would you support similar efforts taking place in Massachusetts to reallocate funds from police and schools to hire more counselors? Okay, thank you. We're going to move, let's give it a round of applause. Can you hand me the boards? Okay.
I want you to state, because I think my opponent here just said it's defund the police. I never, ever not going to say yes to defunding the police. I want you to actually just call that out.
So the question was not defund the police, just for clarification. It was specifically to schools. So just to clarify. Okay, so moving on to our, I'm sorry? So this is purely in schools, but we're going to move on to the next section. So this section is regarding facts and people of Lowell. So this is a knowledge section. Okay? So I'll ask a series of questions about the demographics and people of Lowell and Chelmsford. All candidates will answer every question by writing down their answers on the whiteboard. Candidates will have 30 seconds to respond and hold up their whiteboard before I read out the correct answer. Got it? Okay. Question number 1. According to the U.S. Census data, in Lowell, what percentage of households speak a language other than English in the home? Again, according to U.S. Census data, in Lowell, what percentage of households speak a language other than English in the home? Best guess. Okay.
40%.
Rodney?
35.
Okay, so we have a 25, a 35, and a 40%. The correct answer is 40%. Second question. What percentage of registered voters in Lowell voted in last year's municipal election? Again, what percentage of registered voters in Lowell voted in last year's municipal election? All right, might have to help me out here. What does yours say, Zoe? 19%, 11%, and 40%. The correct answer is 17.9%. Next question. According to housing websites like Zillow, Zumper, and Rent Cafe, what is the average monthly cost of rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Chelmsford? According to housing websites like Zillow, Zumper, and Rent Cafe, what is the average monthly cost of rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Chelmsford? Okay, so what do you have?
1,500.
1,500? We have 2,200 and 1,800. The range is 2,000 to 2,400. All right, last knowledge question. According to the 2021 Community Teamwork Greater Lowell Community Needs Assessment, what percentage of residents are rent burdened? Meaning that they pay more than 30% of their income in housing. Again, what percentage of residents are rent burdened? Meaning that they pay more than 30% of their income in housing. Okay, so 40%, 40%, and 11%. The answer is 50%. Thank you. Let's give the candidates another round of applause. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to move on to round 2 of the candidate question and answer. Same rules as before. We'll start from in alphabetical order, and each candidate will get 1 minute to answer the questions, and they will all answer 4 questions each. So, education. How would you increase funding to our public schools? Again, how would you increase funding to our public schools?
So first and foremost, I am an advocate of the public schools system. I grew up all the way from kindergarten all the way through college in the public school system. And I have one of my daughters that actually graduated from Lowell High School as well. The thing about the public school system is that it's definitely underfunded because I have the knowledge, as 2 of my children actually went to St. Michael's, where we're sitting right now, from pre-K to 8th grade. They've received a phenomenal education. But when we went into the public school system now with my other daughter, for Lowell High School, I saw the vast difference in how it's funded. As your next state representative, I will fight hard to ensure that funding does come to our district and it comes straight to the public school system.
Thank you, candidate.
The environment and climate.
The environment and climate change. Would you prioritize increasing public transportation to curb greenhouse emissions? Again, would you prioritize increasing public transportation to curb greenhouse emissions?
I would. I do think it's important that we invest in our public transportation. Our roads are jammed. We need to improve not only the quality, but also the timeliness. I took public transportation for decades. It's improved, but we do need to invest it. Certainly to protect the environment is equally as important. So I do think it's important as we move forward. Just look what's taking place right now with the closure of the MBTA and the impact that's having on everybody, the economy, but certainly the environment. So I think it makes sense. I think we need to also trend to infrastructure as well as electric vehicles. I think we need not to rely solely on fossil fuels. It's cyclical. Whether something else is happening in the world that affects gas consumption or gas prices, I think that we need to transition, and we shouldn't rely on fossil fuels. There should be alternatives to that balance.
Education. Last one, education. What are you going to do to secure continued funding for higher education to keep it affordable for those who want to attend? Again, what are you going to do to secure continued funding for higher education to keep it affordable to those who want to attend?
Well, I think our,
Makes sense.
oh, sorry, I keep forgetting. I think that colleges are much too expensive, and I think the reason they're too expensive is because they're allowed to keep raising the price of tuition. I think we should probably get the government out of school lending money, school loans, and I think that's one of the reasons why college tuition went up. And I think that something needs to be done about it, because it's unaffordable for kids to go to college these days. And these colleges have huge endowments, huge endowments. So I really don't think that they're being fair to the students, and it's getting to the point where they can't afford it.
Thank you, candidate. Right. Zoe, you are up next. Healthcare. How would you expand access to all those who need mental health care and support services? How would you expand access to all those who need mental health care and support services?
So thank you for that question, because that is the number one reason why I decided to jump into this race. It propelled me to. Navigating that system, the mental health system, was absolutely horrible. I have legislative solutions to really make sure that when people are in crises, they get the help that they need. Number one, there's a pipeline issue, meaning that there's not enough social workers, there's not enough therapists, there's not enough of the clinical aspects to get help when we need it. There are several different things that are barriers to these people, to these folks getting their certifications. I'm going to make it easier for them to get certified, so that there's more of a pool for people to draw from. Also, schools, social workers are needed in schools as much as nurses.
Thank you, candidate. Oh. Technical difficulties. Yeah, you got it. Healthcare. What policies would you support to make quality healthcare affordable and accessible for all residents? Again, what policies would you support to make quality healthcare affordable and accessible for all residents?
Sure. I think Massachusetts adopted the universal health care many, many years ago, a decade or so. And, there is great opportunity. Mass health is available to anyone that needs it. You can get those services through the Health Connector. I think we need to continue that trend and work with, insurance companies. I think that's where the rubber meets the road. And just to touch on mental health just a little bit, I commend the legislature for passing mental health bill that includes annual exams for mental health, similar to that for your physical exams, extension of licensure for social workers to put employees, to put staff, to put professionals in the pipeline, because it is important. And I think that is one of the number one crisis. And more importantly, that insurance companies have to cover this. We have been dealing with this, I can tell, in the Lowell City Council for a decade. And now that the legislature has required that,
Thank
it
you,
makes
candidate.
sense.
Public safety. It's the last one in the bowl, yeah. What is the number one safety concern among Lowell's greater population? What would you do to address this problem? What is the number one safety concern among Lowell's population? What would you do to address this problem?
I would say the number one concern with safety is not having enough police. I think that the defunding the police was one of the biggest mistakes we ever made in this country. And I feel like
Heckling will not be tolerated.
at this
Please
point
finish your
we
sentence.
should be hiring more policemen, because those are the people that keep us safe. And especially in the minority communities, I believe that we definitely need more police. I think that also once someone commits a crime, they should be held accountable for that crime and not put back out on the street again to commit another crime and another crime. As far as safety goes, I think that a lot of times it's, okay, never mind.
Thank you, candidate. Yep. Just a reminder to please be respectful. I know we're talking about a lot of issues here and we all have opinions about them, but this is a forum. We want to make sure that everyone can hear, including folks at home.
DEI.
DEI, that is diversity, equity, and inclusion. What steps would you take to eliminate discrimination in our policing? Again, what steps would you take to eliminate discrimination in our policing?
So this is a great question. First of all, I want to say that the Lowell Police Department has been incredibly helpful in our personal lives, in my personal life. They've actually saved some of my family members. So I would never defund the police, and I have the utmost respect for Lowell Police Department. There's always room for improvement. Community policing works. You have people that live in your district or in your neighborhood that police your neighborhood. It works because you grew up together, you know this person's family, you know that person's son or daughter, and you're able to tactfully police them. And that is important. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate. Education.
Education is over.
Oh, you can spin the wheel again. The environment and climate change.
I'm glad I worked for these environmental agencies all these years.
What measures do you support in battling climate change? Again, what measures do you support in battling climate change?
A number of issues, quite frankly. I think that we need to invest in our offshore wind capability. If you read many studies that we have the capacity to generate more energy in our region and to distribute it elsewhere. I think that's an important measure that we need to step forward. I think we need to provide, if we want people to drive electric vehicles, we need to provide an incentive. They're expensive. We need to provide rebates, similar to what happened with solar panels. People, once it was affordable, we make these things affordable, then it becomes palatable for working families. We talked about mass transportation to reduce the impact of fossil fuels in the environment. So I think those are the major, but the other aspect is we've got to improve the electric infrastructure to create more clean energy. The infrastructure needs to be upgraded to be able to handle and distribute that.
Thank you, candidate. Economy. What is the greatest issue affecting our local economy, and what would you do to address this issue? Again, what is the greatest issue affecting our local economy, and what would you do to address this issue?
I think the greatest issue affecting our local economy right now is inflation. It's not sustainable. I mean, you go to the grocery store, the prices are through the roof. The gas prices are outrageous, and they need to come down. And I think this all comes back to fossil fuels again. We can't stop using gas until we have a plan as to what we're going to do. And it should be a long-term plan. This short-term plan of forcing people into electric cars and forcing us to use the windmills or other things like that, we're not ready for that. And people can't afford to buy electric cars right now. So they need to rethink this, and they need to do it, and we also need to hear from...
Thank you, candidate. All candidates will answer one more question. Elections. Is this the last one? All right, this is the last one, so I'll just read it. Would you support same-day voter registration? Why or why not? Again, would you support same-day voter registration? Why or why not?
Yes, sí, da, and how do you say it in Khmer? Chang. Okay, so yes. Absolutely. The reason being that it, again, promotes fair and equitable voting. It also gets people engaged. If you forget to register because you have 3 kids, you have 1 car, everybody's going to soccer practice and different things, and you forget to actually register, when you know that they're home for school that day, it's voting day. You can go in and register same day and make your voice count. So yes.
Thank you, candidate. Transportation. How can we expand public transportation access across the state? Again, how can we expand public transportation access across the state?
Well, we have to invest in, we have to improve what we have currently. It's not operating efficiently, it's not safe. So first and foremost, I think that we have to improve, and it's a costly expense. I think 2 things. The MBTA, DOT should handle the capital investments, and MBTA should worry about operating and public safety. To a stand, I think it makes sense. We've done that on the Green Line. There's a Green Line extension the state has just in the last 5 or 6 years. Those are the things. Public transportation, if we want, again, people to stay off the highways, reduce the carbon footprint, then we have to invest in it. And I think that's what people want. But that includes improving service, improving accessibility. There's a plan in Chelmsford. I can speak for Vinyl Square. We should be expanding some of these stops so people can, where they're coming down from New Hampshire and other locations, there's accessibility. So,
Thank you,
expansion.
candidate. Audience question. These questions, again, are submitted by our in-person audience. How would you solve the homeless problem? Again, how would you solve the homeless problem?
So I have an idea that encompasses homeless, drug addicted, and mentally ill, the mentally ill. It encompasses all three, starting with reaching out to the private sector, reaching out to landowners and people that are willing to donate money. The landowners, I would ask to donate land that we could build a facility on. And this facility would be in a rural area, and the facility would also be farmland, so that people that were homeless, mentally ill, drug addicted could go for a 6-month program, because you cannot take someone that is drug addicted and put them back out on the street where they can buy drugs. This would not be a place where you'd be able to do that.
Thank
so
you,
easily.
candidate. That concludes our candidate question and answer. Can we give a round of applause to all the candidates? I would like to invite the candidates now to prepare their closing statements. They will each receive 1 minute, and we will go in alphabetical order.
So I appreciate the opportunity to talk with all of you tonight and to hear your questions and concerns. That's what this campaign is all about. I've heard what's most important to the people in this district: the high cost of living, tax relief, and keeping people housed, mental health, public safety, healthcare, education, women and small businesses, and climate and infrastructure. I understand that our state budget is far more than just numbers. It's a reflection of our values. As your next state representative, I'm ready to fight for you and your interests. I've worked at the State House, and I know how to get things done there. I know how to get legislation passed and build consensus and coalitions. That's what I do best. You have to be able to build relationships. That's what I do. And that's how I'm going to bring all of our resources back to our district. Thank you.
Thank you, candidate.
Thank you once again to the organizers. I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank my wife, Laurie, and my 2 daughters, Caitlin and Michaela. Running for office, it has an impact on families, and I'm grateful for your understanding, your support, your unwavering support for so many years. But to all my supporters and those of you who worked tirelessly on the campaign, it's a grind. We've been going since February, March, April. I thank you for your efforts. I wouldn't be here. It does take a village. And to the voters, I thank you for having placed your trust in me for the last 24 years when I served. It's an honor, and it's a privilege. I want to go to the State House to remove roadblocks that are in the way of making your priorities reality. There's a great urgency to secure funding for streets and sidewalk, traffic mitigation, improve funding for substance abuse and mental health access. As your state representative, I'm going to work hard to make sure your priorities are reflected in the budget and provide opportunity. Oh, that was 1 minute, right. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
The Mass legislature in this state is one of the most liberal in the nation. 50,000 people left the state just last year. We have a broken transportation system. Our infrastructure is in need of attention. A prime example is the Rourke Bridge. I will make it my mission to ensure funding is in place and work commences. The citizens of this state cannot afford to pay higher taxes or higher food and gas prices. We need to cut taxes. We have become a one-party system in this state, and there is no debate. The laws that are passed do not benefit the average middle-class, hard-working, tax-paying American. The Democratic Party is no longer the party of working class. It is time to step aside for new ideas, new energy, and a genuine interest in improving the lives of we the people. I will do everything in my power to make you a priority. I hope that you will help the Republicans in November to reverse course and bring back common sense, fair policies to this state. Thank you very much for having me, and thank you
candidate.
for all your hard work.
One more round of applause for all the candidates, please. All right. That concludes our programming. I want to thank everyone who came out tonight to join us in person and to those who are joining us virtually. I also want to thank all of the candidates for showing up tonight, St. Michael's Church for lending us their beautiful space, and the Lowell Telemedia Center for their support in helping us air this event live. Round of applause, please, again. Remember to vote September 6th for the primary and again on November 8th for the general election. If you're with us in person, we can help you find your polling location on the way out over in the back table over there. You can also visit the Massachusetts Secretary of State's website at wheredoivote.ma. We also have some voter education materials, including our voter guide, and we have some exit surveys if you would be so kind, those of you who are in person. Thank you again for joining us, and have a good evening.